G'day. So this really feels like a bit of a MasterChef segment. We're outdoors, we're out in the open, we're doing something to do with food. Feels very MasterChef, but it's really windy. I'm hoping my microphone sticks with me here. So what I'm gonna do today is start a bit of a series, let's hope, if I can keep it going, as part of this vlog called Brand Promises. Sounds like a good little jingle. So brand promises. What is a brand without a good brand promise? Some people believe a brand is a promise. I think that's a fair assessment of what you want to deliver as that conduit between your company and your customer. Can we deliver on a promise consistently? Do it efficiently? Can we do it with our products? Can we do it with our services? Can we do it with our advertising? Can we do it with our customer experience? All these different things. So let's dive into it. And the first product I'm going to look at is peanut butter. Specifically, Australian peanut butter. Now, peanut butter in Australia is typically made with 100% Australian peanuts. We grow our own peanuts in Australia, and there's several products on the shelf. Peanut butter goes back 50, 60, if not more years as a spread that we have on toast, and I do this every morning. This is my staple for breakfast, not lunch and dinner as well, sometimes, is peanut butter. And I'll give you a bit of a history of each of these. In terms of understanding some of these brands. So the first one we have here is called Bega Peanut Butter. Now Bega is a brand that has been around for many, many years now here in Australia. It's a very well-known brand, very well-established brand, and they come from a region called Bega, which is a bit south of where I live, and they make cheese. So that's what they're known for most, is Bega cheese. And in 2017, or up until 2017, they were owned by a company called Kraft. If you're American, you'd probably know Kraft. It's owned by Mondelez, the same people that own Cadbury. But in 2017, they sold this peanut butter recipe, the factory, the ownership over it here in Australia to Bega. You might not know Bega outside of the cheese maybe in Australia, but outside of Australia, you probably don't know Bega at all. But you will know one of their other products. It's Australian iconic product, Vegemite. Whether you love it or you hate it, even if you're Australian, Bega also now owns Vegemite and this peanut butter brand. But this has been around for 55 years. It's been made in a factory in, I think, South Melbourne or Port Melbourne in Victoria, a state of Australia, for 55 years. So it's been around way longer than I have, nearly as long as my parents. And it has been a staple of Australian households, especially for breakfast, kids' lunches, and stayed pretty much the same. And this is the product that I'm probably going to focus most of the attention on because they deliver on a promise. But we'll come back to that very soon. And the second brand I want to talk about here is Mayver's. And Mayver's is a family-owned brand, the Mayver family. They're a pretty young family, a bit older than my wife and I, and we've got kids about the same age, and they have a cracking good business of everything from peanut butter spreads to honeys to jams to a whole heap of different ranges of types of peanut butters and kind of anything in between. And they seem to be growing and growing and growing. They're in the supermarket shelf, they're front and center. They're doing a fantastic job of their business and product. The one in the middle here, you might have noticed, maybe if you zoom up a bit close there, is this is called Bega's Simply Nuts. So Bega makes both of these. And the reason I think that this exists is because of this one. I think Mayver's has created a great amount of market share in the peanut butter territory, the peanut butter market, this industry, that this had to come along to compete with this. Because these two are fairly differentiated, and I'll come back to that in a sec. But the history of it, of why this exists, is to compete with this, because these two are a very similar product. 100% peanuts, dash of salt, that's it. This one has a little bit more additives, like sugar and some vegetable oil to stabilize it, to get it to the product that it delivers time and time again, whereas these two are pretty much all 100% natural. Now, in terms of the product range, with Bega's peanut butter and their Simply Nuts, they have a few different variations. Out with the birds here. Now, peanut butter with Bega is a few different SKUs. They have smooth, they have crunchy, they have super crunchy, they have light, and then lights for both smooth and crunchy. birds just keep coming, keep flying around. Bega's Simply Nut's pretty similar, smooth and crunchy in terms of their SKUs. They might have some other variations, but this is pretty much what you find on the shelf. But what you'll find with Bega peanut butter, a lot of different sizes. They have little mini ones all the way up to nearly a kilo. They have big 2 kilo tubs as well that you can get for, I think for like cafes and restaurants and things like that. You can find them on Amazon. Anyway, long story long, that's these two. So that's all the products we've got here. I've just got 3 to demonstrate which are which, because I think this is going to show you the power of a brand promise and a couple of other things. So that brings us to distinctiveness versus differentiation. Ding ding! It's never like that. It's not a fight, it's both. Can we lean into both of these things in our own unique ways to help us stand out, to connect with a customer and deliver maybe on a brand promise as a result of it? And I think both of these effectively, well, these 2 brands, let's say, effectively do that. I'm going to move this one off the shelf for a little second and focus on these 2 specifically, because they appeal to maybe a different market and for different reasons. Now, in terms of Bega's peanut butter, very distinctive label. It hasn't really changed all that much, especially the distinctive blue, yellow, and kind of even red when Kraft was along, because they had a very similar kind of color palette with their logo. Hasn't changed all that much. One thing they did lose, which is a bit of a shame, they had a bit of a mascot. They had a little honey bear kind of looking mascot, if you will, on the front of their jars. And I think they made it quite appealing, especially to a younger demographic, for kids.
You know what I really don't like? Peanut butter with oil on top. It's horrible and mucky. That's why I love Kraft peanut butter. It's never oily or dry, and it's so easy to spread all the way to the bottom of the jar. Mmm.
Kraft peanut butter, smooth or crunchy, but never dry or oily.
My kids, this is what they have most mornings. But the distinctive colors to denote the difference between smooth and crunchy distinctively stands on the shelf very quickly and has become a bit of a brand code, at least in Australia, maybe elsewhere as well. But smooth is represented by blue and crunchy is represented by red. We've also got super crunchy, which I think is green. But that has become a bit of a staple, especially in other brands that try and compete with this one. Especially the home brands, the ones that Woolworths make, the ones that Coles make, the ones that Aldi makes here in Australia. By the way, I should say as well, this isn't a product promotion by Woolworths by any stretch of the imagination. No, it's just my local supermarket. So there's some distinctive assets going on here, especially with their product packaging and how they brand themselves, in addition to the parent brand being Bega. We all know it's Bega peanut butter now. It used to be Kraft peanut butter, and they've made its transition in the last, 8 years of doing so. 7 years. 7 years. Now, when we look at Mayver's, very different type of packaging, a lot more maybe authentic, a bit more rustic, very much leaning into that family nature of where the heritage of this product comes from, made in very similar places. So differentiation-wise, not too dissimilar in certain respects in terms of, yes, they're peanut butter, they're on the same shelf, they're grown, peanuts are probably grown in very similar regions, they're manufactured in very similar regions. Okay, Future Frank here, a little bit of a disclaimer here of something I've just said there. I've just noticed Bega's peanut butter isn't made from 100% Australian peanuts. Down the bottom here, we have a little label here that says made in Australia from less than 10% Australian ingredients. So not correct in what I said there. Simply Nuts that Bega makes as well as Mayver's brand, they are both 100% Australian peanuts in their product. So just to clarify. All right, let's get back to it. And as a result, you get a consistent product from both of these brands, but how they're presented distinctively, very differently. And this might lean into somebody that is looking for something of a more, not organic, but something that is a more natural product, something that is, because it is a family name, there might be a little bit more trust involved in that distinctiveness of their name, their packaging, their ethos, their story behind trying to make something like they do. And their tagline here is nothing but goodness, which is nice. It's okay. And leans into a wide variety of their products. Whereas Bega's peanut butter is just focused on peanut butter. They have all their other brands like the Vegemites. It's just getting a bit windy. They have all their products like their Vegemites, their cheeses and others. But Bega peanut butter is Bega peanut butter. And then what happens, yes, when you want to compete, because these two here, playing a Russian roulette here, between these two here, there's very different products. Because as I said before, in terms of the product itself, with Bega peanut butter, it has some other product ingredients in it, like sugar, which can be a bit of a turn-off for some families, and then as well as vegetable oil included in it. So it's not just peanuts and a dash of salt. It also has salt, sugar, vegetable oil, just to stabilize the product, to deliver its consistent experience. And it's where Simply Nuts comes in to be that category competitor, to make something that for, sorry, I thought that might have been my kids, to make something that compete on the shelf against one another and try and take market share. And there's nothing wrong with competition in terms of trying to come to the table with a similar product to knock off the table their differentiation maybe. Because I think differentiation sometimes cannot last in terms of a product or a service. Leaning into differentiation in that way might only take 12 months, 2 years, 5 years for a competitor to come along and rain on that parade. And that's where you find competitors, especially other established brands, that come along and go, hey, we can make something like one of our competitors that's taking market share away from our peanut butter and make something that can then directly compete. It might compete with their own product, but at the end of the day, the profits all go to their own business. And this is what can happen in a market. And I think that's okay. It's good to have competition. It keeps us all on our toes to do better. It's just when you get to these big monopoly kind of companies that it becomes a bit unfair and they come in and basically squash you, and it's not good for business. It's not good for the consumer as well. And that's what happens with a lot of businesses here in Australia, especially because we're such a small market. But the different way that I think Mayver's does it in terms of differentiation is delivering on their values. It's a family-owned business. It's still made with love and care and detail of the husband and wife that run this business and own this business, and all their team obviously as well. And I'm sure there's some core values in there to keep that family essence within their team and to make it a great product and deliver an all-natural product in different ways that is living up to the name of nothing but goodness. And I think in terms of that differentiation, we can bring it back to our brand promise. This is where I'm leading to with this, because both of these deliver on a promise. The differentiation for these guys is that family value. It's nothing but peanuts or nothing, that isn't natural going into their products. It's all Australian made, Australian grown products. They live up to that brand promise. Fantastic, that's why we choose it. Whereas with Bega's peanut butter, it has never lost its brand promise. Maybe since day one when they first started advertising maybe, or making the product. And because this has been around for 55 years, it has stood the test of time and still delivers a very consistent experience that I would hazard a guess tastes exactly the same as it did 36 years ago when I was a kid. Yeah? And it's this promise. It says it right on the front of the jar. Never oily, never dry.
Hey, honey, there's a little something I've been meaning to tell you. When my baby spread me, I didn't spread so good. I didn't have the peanut taste, the peanut butter should, baby. Oh, I've been so oily, baby. I've been so oily.
There's plenty of imitators,
Thank you very much.
but nothing's as good as the original Kraft peanut butter.
Thank you.
It's never oily and it's never dry.
That was their staple message for their advertising campaigns, even as far back as the 80s, maybe even the 70s, and even further. But never oily, never dry has stayed a consistent message till today. And it delivers on that promise. This product is never oily and it's never dried out. And that can be a problem with peanut butter, trying to stabilize it to get it to be a consistent experience, where you see at the top of this, see the top of that? You get the oil sitting on the top, peanut oil. It's nothing unnatural, it's fine. All you got to do is stir it around to reincorporate it together. But this is never oily, never dry. And that can be a real selling point for people that enjoy that experience more at the cost of, obviously, a bit of sugar and a bit of vegetable oil in there to stabilize things, versus this experience. My kids love this, my kids don't really like this. But delivering on a brand promise is where it can meet a certain customer. So this, yes, absolutely, fail safe. It's fantastic every time. It works, tastes good, delivers on that promise, never oily, never dry. But for a different kind of consumer, me, that comes along, having loved this for 35 years, I discovered this last year, especially after someone from the Mayver's family engaged with a comment of mine or a post of mine on LinkedIn, and I went and tried these guys. And it lived up to its promise of having a natural product that tasted great. It was made in Australia, and there's some other things going for it as well. It's in a glass and aluminium jar versus plastic, so that might be something as well to you. There's meaning for you as a consumer, but the product tasted better. And if it delivers on those promises and it's a good product, that made me switch. And that might be all it takes to get you to switch, in addition to the promotion side of things, obviously. The price maybe. I mean, these three are priced very differently. This is the cheapest, and these two are more expensive, and they compete about the same kind of price. I'd say they're probably about 20 or 30% more expensive, and they still sit front and center on the shelf as their prime position, whereas this is going down in position on the shelf. You'll see that in some of the videos I posted up here. This is still Australia's most preferred peanut butter because it has the largest market share. I would hazard a guess. I don't know the figures, but it has been around long enough to have enough fame, in addition to its product promise, to be the market leader. But what you've got to come along and do is differentiate and be distinctive, price competitively, and deliver on a promise. This is how you can compete in a market. This is why I wanted to cover these three products. So we think about marketing, and I don't know a whole lot about marketing, but I know it's based on product, which they nail. Price, it's not unreasonable to make a product of this quality for the price it is. It's a little bit more expensive, but to the cost of having a more natural product, it's worth it to me. Placement, again, something that's overlooked in marketing. Where is it placed? Somewhere that I know where to find peanut butter. It's in the peanut butter aisle, but it's also front and center. So they might have paid a lot to get that prime position and demonstrated that their market appeal has enough market appeal to warrant sitting front and center on a market shelf, supermarket shelf. And then they've got the promotion, which to me, I haven't really seen all that much promotion for Mayver's. I might be looking in all the wrong places. They might not be targeting me well enough, but that's something for them to do over time, okay? So they've got product, they've got placement, they've got price, they've probably got promotion in some respect, but they've got the time to build on that over time. Because, you know, brand building does take that time. But if you have your marketing in place, you have that strategy in place of why you stand out different, why you are going to be distinctive over your competitors, and deliver on that promise day after day. This is how we do brand building. This is how we do branding. This is how we do marketing. This is how we get brand success time and time again, over time, as we grow, little by little. I say do better branding, and doing better branding is these little incremental changes of growth that you can make over time to do better than maybe your competitor is, or sticking to your own guns and coming to the market with a product that can outpace the current mover and shaker of the industry. There's nothing wrong with doing this. That's okay. All right? We can come to the table with new products to compete. These guys could come to the table and compete with Bega's peanut butter very easily, but I don't think that lives up to their core brand. So why would they? Okay? Now, at the end of the day, I think this all comes down to product. You know, yes, promotion, yes, pricing, yes, placement, yes, branding, distinctiveness, differentiation. The brand promise of delivering a consistent product time and time again, even a service, you know, consistently every time, so the customer knows exactly what they're going to get, and it delivers on a promise time and time again, if not better. This is what it comes down to. And I don't know marketing all that much, but if you listen to the gurus, you take on board some of their advice, be it a Mark Ritson, a Byron Sharp, a Grace Kite, a Jenny Romanak, or a Seth Godin, even Gary Vee. You know, they all say, you know, it comes down to the product or service. If you don't have a good product or service, it's like pushing shit up a hill. No matter how much effort you put into it, you can't sell a polished turd. It's just too hard. It won't work. A consumer can see through the bullshit. We've seen enough shit out there and there's some shit out there, to understand what a good product or service is and an experience that goes with it. So, what are the key learning points that I could take away from here? Create a promise. Create a very simple promise that can outlive your products, your services, can become a part of what your brand delivers time and time again, so that you can create new products, you can create new services, you can lean into acquiring and partnering with other products and services, businesses, all that kind of stuff. Lean into distinctiveness, lean into differentiation. Look at what your market is doing and maybe have to compete with a new product to keep market share. All these things we need to do to create and grow a brand. It's not just a pretty logo or some nice packaging. There's more to it under the surface, all that stuff underneath that consumers don't need to know about, they don't need to see. It's all working on them in different ways. But this is how we grow brands. This is how I've found to grow brands. This is how I do it with my clients. And it becomes something that on paper should be simple. It's complex, there's a lot of different moving parts, but this is what makes marketing and branding interesting, at least for me and for others that do this. All right, give this video a like if you found it at all helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already and you like what I've got going on here, and maybe just leave a comment for the next product or service I should cover for this Brand Promises series. Might give me some ideas for what to cover, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Do better branding.